Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Common Magician. I've got something interesting to share with you. I started the day with a quick video on my way to work, just responding to a question about an unpublished effect and what I thought about it. And my consequently, I can't think anything about something that I've never seen. Right? I've not seen performed, and I haven't seen published in terms of an explanation. Well, that turned into a discussion about what do I think about unpublished magic that has a description and usually has a sort of a kind of perfect description to it. And then I made a comment about, well, I have an open prediction that satisfies all of the requirements of the open prediction, and can be done in the spectator's hands and free choice and whatnot, and it will never be published. And then I asked the question, "Are you interested?" And then I conclude you shouldn't be interested because it's going to use a method. It's going to use a method, and it's probably going to use methods because there's only so many ways to do something. It's pretty simple logic with respect to how to get from point A to point B and the narrow way to do it. Nonetheless, the question comes up, can I see your unpublished thing, and that's the whole point. I'm just going to show you. And I literally, when I made that statement, I, in that very moment, thought of a method. In that very moment, this is not it. I thought of something different. This is something even better than that. So I can still stay true to my claim that it will never be published. But I want to point something out. I just want to make an issue of this. Don't covet these unpublished things. We've all been there, right? Don't covet the unpublished work. Again, as I made I made the point that it's unpublished for a reason. I don't know the reason, but I know the reasons, right? And the assumption that something is unpublished because it's too good to share is not likely the reason. That's the assumption that adds to the mystique, but that's not likely the reason, at least not in and of itself. I think in a way you could reason that that is the reason, but I think it's more complicated than that. Usually something, I reason that something is unpublished because it needs to be protected, but not for the reasons you think. If you publish and show, the next question is why can't you find a performance of the thing, whatever it is? Because that's usually the case. I can't find the performance of it anywhere. Why can't I find a performance of this? I think it comes down to the fact that the performance would not stand up to the scrutiny of magicians, right? And because of that, it's not worth putting out there. It's better to just keep it to oneself and perform it, and let that be it, and allow the mystique to exist surrounding it and persist surrounding it. It's not really a scam, right? It's not like we're trying to. It's not like they're trying to put one over on everybody. They literally are just trying to protect the property as a good method that doesn't stand up to scrutiny under performance under most circumstances with magicians. How could it, right? Again, it's the entire premise of Fool Us. That's really the whole thing. They do a trick for Penn and Teller and for everybody else in the magic community, whatever that is, and it stands up to scrutiny there, and most things do not. Most of the time, even when Penn and Teller are fooled, it doesn't fool many of us because we have the luxury of watching it outside of the context of the live environment. And we have the opportunity to be thinking in different ways. We're not under the lights. We're not in front of the spectators in the room, and you have a better chance at understanding how something works at sitting at home watching it on television than you do sitting in Penn and Teller's chair, right? And sometimes things go by them that they should know, but they didn't catch, right? Sometimes they figure things out that we at home don't quite catch on to because they have a different perspective that helps them understand it better. It's just the way it is, right? Whatever is done is seen, and whatever is seen can help in the understanding of the effect. So why do some things go unpublished? Well, maybe it's because they are really good, but they're also really simple. And they would be understood by magicians. And they would fall under scrutiny as not following the rules. And therefore, everything would be ruined, right, about it. So let me just make the point here. This is not what I was thinking. This is something different. And again, better. Let's assume we're going, I'm not going to present the trick and then teach it to you. I'm going to do the opposite. We're going to discuss the trick and construct the trick as I've conceived of it here. And then you can see why it wouldn't be published. And yet still why it follows all the rules in terms of the requirements to give a good story, so that the story would be maintained, right? The spectator you can say, I've done this trick and these are the outcomes that you're after, and I have something that does that, and I'm not going to release it, okay? But here I'm going to release this idea, okay? So let's think this through. Open prediction. How open do we want the prediction? First of all, who do we want to predict? Let's say we want the spectator to name a card freely. Now I've got a problem. If the deck is impromptu, and I want this impromptu, I want to do it impromptu. Let's make that a requirement. It doesn't have to be that way. You could make this, you could go a entirely different track if it is set up. But let's say that this is impromptu deck of cards. It's even the spectator shuffled the deck. Okay. I need them to name a card, but I'm going to have to get control. I have to know where it is. I have to have control. Can I do that? Are there methods to help me with that? Yes, of course. It may require me to have them name a card from a face-up deck. So I have them shuffle, the deck is out there. I say, you know what, name any card you can think of. Let's say they say the 6 of clubs. And I say, if you take a look here, we have only one 6 of clubs. You have a 6 of spades, 6 of hearts, actually 3 6s in a row. And you shuffled the deck and, these things happen. But you can see there's only one 6 of clubs. There's only one. You can verify there's no other 6 of clubs in the deck. Completely normal deck. And again, you shuffled it. Just one, right? And I'm going to shuffle the cards. And it doesn't matter if I know where the card is at. It doesn't matter at all. It only matters that you don't know where the card is at. That's the only thing that's required, okay? In fact, I'm not even going to do this. You are going to do everything. That's another thing we want. We want them to freely name a card. I found a way to get control of it, which I'll get back to in a minute, because we did it from a face-up spread. We had it in play. But now we're going to give them the control. That's the second thing. I want them to do everything. I want them to turn the cards over and find a spot where they're going to leave one card face down. Now, here I'm going to violate part of this, because you have to violate something, right? You can't actually do the trick the way it's described. Not really. Okay, you can't, not where they're going to name it or whatever. I mean, you probably could adapt some of, Marlowe's idea or whatever to make this work, and have some kind of a turnover move and get it into play and have it offset and do that rendition. You probably can. That's a really great way to do it, and there's probably ways to do it, but I want to keep this simple. This is the common magician channel after all. So what I need to do is I need to get them to turn over cards that are not the card, but to identify the card and leave it face down. And I want them to do all of it. What do? Cut deeper force. It's that simple. Cut deeper force, and then I describe it in the best light. So I say, good, you're going to do all this. In fact, let's try something. Could you just cut a small packet off the top and turn it over? Turn it over and place it face up. Right? In fact, we'll make this even more complex. Go ahead. Why don't you cut a little bit deeper, cut more, about half of the cards, and then turn those over and let them put them now face down on the deck. So you've got some cards face up, some cards face down. Now, what I want you to do, you've got some cards face up now. Could you just deal those down onto the table? And they would do this. So you could say, just deal them, leave them face up and deal them down. And they would deal. You see, as we look through this, we note what they are, and more importantly, as you'll see in a moment, what they aren't. So they deal these face up. You say stop right there, and you see there's a card that's face down. This is where you cut to. This is the first card that is face down. You turned all of these cards face up, but you've got one card face down. Why don't you deal that off, leave it face down right over here. And when you take the rest of the deck, just for kicks here, can you deal the rest of these face up? Turn them over and let's look at them. So you turn these face up and they deal all the way through the deck. Every single card face up, right? Just for the sake of time, we'll do this. All the cards face up. You can see every card here in the deck is face up except for one that you left face down. This is where you stopped at. All of what I'm saying is true, and it fits the description. I could describe this trick exactly right. What have I left out? Well, they cut into the deck to identify the spot, and they turned, at least in the description, I could, as far as the spectator understands, they turned a chunk of cards face up into the deck where they located one card face down. That's the only thing I'm giving up. But otherwise, I've used a cut deeper force to get the exact outcome that I want. You know, this is the open prediction. They openly predicted the card that they're going to find, and then they found it. So how do I get the control? The control is very simple. They shuffle the deck, you spread them out, they name any card they're thinking of. Let's say they say the six of diamonds. We have the six of diamonds right here. You take it out, you demonstrate that there's no other six of diamonds in the deck. I take this card, I put it on top. I can do one of two things. In this case, what I did is I just shuffled it to the bottom. Probably the better thing is to do the trusty jog shuffle. I jog one card, and then I shuffle fairly on top of it. I lift up at the jog. I shuffle fairly until I get to the break at the jog, and then I've brought the card back to the top. Now they have the card that they freely named from a deck that they shuffled and has been lost in the deck here. They verified it's all fair. There's no gimmick deck. Now I'm set for them to do everything on their own. They cut a small packet as directed, drop it on top. Cut deeper. Why don't you do about half of the deck, right? They cut in and they drop that on top. And now we're there and they've done everything. And I say deal. They're the ones that deal. All the cards face up right here on a pile. Go ahead and deal them out. They deal all the cards face up just as described, right? It's slightly nuanced. Rather than turning the cards face over and seeing them, they've already turned the whole chunk of cards face over, and you can reveal what they have turned over. They say, but there's one card that's face down, and it's going to be the force card. Why don't you set that face down over here and turn the rest of the cards over? Go ahead and deal them down. If you want to keep this consistent, say turn the rest of the cards face over. Deal those out, right? And let's see what is not there. What is there, what is not there, whatever the case may be. And now you have it. Is this published somewhere? I have no idea. But it's a very logical solution to the open prediction as we know it that puts everything in their hands, and it uses a very well-known hands-off sleight. It's a sleightless sleight. It's a self-working sleight. They're the ones that do all of the work. The only sleight of hand involved there is to place the spectator's chosen card, the one they named freely, to the top of the deck. And truly, they don't know where it's at. And truly, they're going to make a selection very fairly. And truly, they're going to turn all the cards face up except for the one card that they left face down at that break. This is it. Why would I make a claim on something like that and never publish it? It's obvious, because it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. And by putting it out there, you defame the trick. I've got a really, 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 really good solution for this that works for spectators. And I don't mean lay spectators, I mean all spectators, right? Because all spectators are lay spectators. We've had this discussion before. Magicians that understand that particular sleight account for that much, and I'm not performing for them. If I did this trick in the presence of magicians for other people, they would definitely appreciate it. And they might even attest and say, boy, that's a really good way to do that trick. That's a really good solution to the open prediction that satisfies everything. But anyway, this is just case in point. This is a case in point. No, I don't think that people come up with these legends just to put one over on magicians. I think in the end, they do that. Because they're protecting it. But what they're protecting, the method from is not necessarily in order to sell something or to create mystique, although they do. They're really just protecting their method from unnecessary scrutiny. It's a good method. It's a good method that might be recognized by magicians, but it might as well be protected rather than sold, if that makes sense. And I think a lot of unpublished work falls in that area. Paul R. Wilson had a any card at any number trick that he did publish, and I've mentioned this before, and it was published without a performance. He did not give a video performance of it in the original publication. And then when he finally did do a video performance of it, you finally see why he didn't put a video performance in, because every magician would know exactly how it's done and wouldn't bother buying it. They wouldn't bother buying the trick because it was so obvious how it worked. But to the spectator, the real spectator, and I refuse to say the lay spectator, I mean all the people out there that indulge in magic tricks and would be, be willing to see it and appreciate it, they would not understand how it works because they don't understand the mechanics and the spatial reasoning required to make it function, even though it would be obvious to the magician. So that's my explanation a little bit further in there. And you get a solution for the open prediction that maybe you hadn't considered before, but that's one that does satisfy. It literally satisfies everything. They shuffle the deck, they freely name a card, they don't know where it's at, they do all the work, they turn every card face up except for one card that they selected. That works. It really does satisfy. And you can even recap it in the perfect light so that they'll tell the story later on. I turned over all the cards except for one card, and the one card I didn't turn over was the card that I freely thought of. You can totally reinforce that such that they'll tell the story and it sticks. It sticks the landing perfectly. Anyway, that was one idea. It wasn't the one I was thinking of when I gave the video. That was I'll say the other idea I had to do with equivocation. That was what I was thinking of. But again, it's not worth saying. It's not even worth showing you. And just so I can keep it honest, I'm not going to publish it. I'll never publish it. So anyway, good luck with that. Happy magicking.